and you can enter your email and your name, and then you just do that, and you have to, it will open up a Vim like command where you will have to enter your name and your email. And once that is done, you can save it, and then you have to get force push it to make the changes, to force push it to the main pull request.
Okay, okay, Sheba. I got it. So I will try. If I face any problem, then I will ping you on Slack.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Gentlemen. Hello.
Hi, Lee.
Hey, Shubham. Hey, Gunjan. Boy, between. Hey,
Nice
Gunjan.
chat.
Man, I didn't realize I was going to get giggly when I heard your voice. It's been a while. You and Ashish just show up in
Yes.
force, man. You guys, yeah.
Yeah. That my exam is over today, so I'm free now.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah. Okay, school's done. If we weren't recording, I would have.
Yeah, same for me.
Oh, very good. Okay. Shubham, is your internship at Red Hat still going on?
Yeah, it's still going on.
Okay. Okay. I was going to say, if we weren't recording, I would have some choice words about school. That horrible institution. All right. Very good. Maybe we will end early today. I'm not sure. I'm excited that there's only a handful of us on, which means maybe we'll get some shit done. Whoops. I said I would.
Yes, Lee. Before starting the record, I want to talk about the partnership with our college. If you want, we can talk later or after the call anytime.
I am trying to do better about how we're organizing the calls, and that's a perfect thing for you to bring up. That's exactly what I should have been asking, which is, do you guys have any topics to talk about? We should definitely talk about the UEM Jaipur partnership for sure.
I wanted to talk about the solar winds. I mean, just get a brief more.
Very good. All right. Let me not put that word in there, but put in the container network. And because I just got done saying that we would try to refrain from choice words, and
Yeah.
I consider that a choice word. As a matter of fact, guys, I gotta say I'm ecstatic this morning. Speaking of that company, my stock options are expiring tomorrow, which means that I've got little choice but to exercise them today. And I think my decision is to just exercise them and sell them, which will be a significant event this morning, which will be great. A lot of pressure off. So container network performance. I'm just watching the stock ticker now.
1921.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Good. No, it's like right around now. If you look over the daily count, it's like right around this hour where it seems to be, I don't know. In some respects, with all the things that I have going on, I'm just lucky that I've realized today that they're expiring shortly. So
Yahoo still exists.
Yeah. That's funny. It's funny how well they did with like this app, like this. Matter of fact, like weren't they some of the first ones to have this? And it's not even that good anymore, I don't think. But this like really dynamic interface for looking at a line chart, anymore. It's funny because Meshery has what I consider some better metric line charts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We should be contacting Yahoo with this.
All right, so container network performance tool. That was one of the few things that I had people work on that I couldn't think of a better acronym for. CNPT. Yeah, it's good. It's a good thing to reflect on. There's good. So if you guys have other topics, just I'm dropping them in as we go. So let me, yeah, go, so Shubham, go ahead with,
Yeah, regarding the partnership or regarding the issue, like,
partnership.
yeah, okay. So in our last call, we discussed that we will be writing some blog regarding our experience and our partnership. So Asis has written. I asked Asis to write some blog, and yeah, he has written the blog and posted in Medium, I guess. Asis is in the call. Yeah. So I will share the link and let me know, me or Asis, what other changes we can do.
Nice. Oh, that's very good.
Like thanks to Asis, like he written all the parts. So yeah.
Man, Mr. Singh. Yeah, very good. Okay. That was more than I was hoping for. It is on the backlog to go and really make something of, well, of better descriptions of the partnerships that we have going on. We've made an announcement about things that we're doing with HashiCorp, and it's very clear, well, or I think from both sides, hopefully very clear that there's good intent and more to come. But there's not much of a description of what that is. And so my point being that the same goes for our engagements ongoing with UT Austin and UEM Jaipur that Shubham, that I'd like to blow this up a little bit, to expand on the give people examples and some photographs and things, some screenshots and stuff that we've done over time, to really develop a bit of the partnership page and a little bit of the community page, which right now has got this horrible video on it that needs to be displaced with a bunch of other activities. We've got all kinds of pictures over the last year of things that we've done, and good things that have happened to folks.
Yeah, I think we can add about the Hacktober Fest or something like that.
Yeah. My hope is then, so I forget, remind me of the name of the professor that we've been engaged with.
Rupayan Das or Das, Mr. Das.
Oh yeah, that's right. That he has also agreed to write a blog post. He's also agreed to get it up on the UEM Jaipur site. I think he is waiting for me to draft that, which is fantastic. It's just another item on the to-do list. But this is great. I'm glad that you guys are pushing forward. Can you do me two favors? So you will post a link to the blog post here. We will probably make a point of being social with that post and that link. Subsequently, it would be nice if we were to get, well, to more or less take either that same post or an alternative version of that, and get it up on the Layer 5 IO blog. Maybe another one, depending upon what you guys have captured in there and have written. It may make sense to have one or more. And
yeah, that blog consists of how to get started with open source, benefit of open source. Asis, please interrupt me if I'm not saying something wrong. So yeah, and yeah, about open source and how to contribute, getting started with open source, and about Meshery, and all the good thing happened with the Fox, and then in the end we have something about the partnership, some block, not blog, about the partnership.
Yeah, there's really, yeah, we're We are trying to hire about 3 marketing interns because there's so much to go tell the world about what's been done in various areas. So this is exciting. Thank you, guys. Just, drop in the link when you will, and that'll help move us forward. If you can, if you don't hear from me, and if I'm not following up in a timely, if I'm not, actually, let me just take all that back and just say, if you will, can you take that same post or rewrite it if you want to, but let's see about getting that up on this site as well.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Nice. And the thing is it's also open to each of you as individuals to tell your own story if you'd like to, or to tell the combined one. Ashish, remind me. I thought that between you, Anand, and Nikhil, that I thought there was a Google Doc that we had exchanged that you might.
Yeah, we do have that link, but when I asked Asis, I think I forgot to share the link maybe. And yes, and Nikhil written some uh, part of his experience in that talk. Yeah.
Nice, good. Yeah, no, that's
So
great.
I think we can have some improvement in the blog. I think.
Okay, good. When you guys put up that draft, we will iterate and improve. Yeah, that's perfect. Speaking of Nikhil, I've fallen down on my job in terms of getting him some feedback. And let me share, let me interject and share a little bit of work that he's done recently. And as I go to share this, if I can find it. Here we go. I'm wondering if you all have advice for me on how to convey to Nikhil in the most loving of ways that he is colorblind. That we just can't do this, that he is iterating on what he, some potential changes for Layer 5 IO's site. And we're slightly off the mark.
If you want, we can directly tell him that he's colorblind. I can tell him. Yeah, friends.
Good. I hope he gets a chuckle out of it. Like, actually, it's a call for maybe thought for everyone on the call here. I think, let me share a bit differently. And this is the more or less the notion that it's been suggested, and I believe it to be true, that the site needs a ton of improvement. It absolutely does. This site was when initially created, was intentionally made to look not very professional, because I didn't want people getting interests conflated. And so that time has passed, and now it's time to put some oomph behind making these collection of pages, this site, really represent what's going on and the work that everyone here is doing, and in an inspiring way, right? It's actually, I think it continues to be an outstanding pain point for the project collectively, for all of us, that this site has a lot of potential. I consider it's okay. It doesn't necessarily scream, and actually, maybe Sudeep, who's on the call, is kind of representing as a user today, which is great. And so Sudeep, as I say this, like,
yeah,
correct me if I'm characterizing this wrong. when you take a, how do I put this? So here's a forthcoming project that I've been interested in for some time. It's called Crossplane, and it's not. It's just of general interest to me, given my historical focus. And anyway, ignoring anything that Crossplane actually does, this just looking at the site and sort of letting it glaze over your eyes for a moment. It looks nice. This is an open source project, and it looks like it's well taken care of. And there's a bunch of marketing speak and kind of ways to get like hey, it's they did well. I consider that this is okay.
So what is that crossplane, Lee? Is that like a declarative way to deploy infrastructure?
Yeah, well, my understanding was that this was had some aspects of what you might find in Terraform, which is a good of the description that you gave. That's a component of this that you're managing your infrastructure in modern ways, which are often declarative. That this was a platform for a bunch of extension points is the wrong thing, but if I recall correctly, there were ways to create all kinds of plugins, if that's the right word. It's been a year since I've talked to these guys, but that I thought they were building out tons of CRDs or something to help you manage the variety of infrastructure that you might have. They are, I think they consider that they sit. It's interesting because that they sit at more of an. So they're orchestrating infrastructure. They're certainly talking about infrastructure. They're doing this in context of applications and workloads that you might run. Yeah, actually.
Okay, maybe like managing multiple operators and like a single pane of control for deploying and managing various operators.
Yeah, which to me
Interesting.
sounds reminiscent of Kudo as the universal declarative operator.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, anyway, I shouldn't have brought up the specifics of the project. Rather, what I was trying to convey is that this site needs some love, I consider, that it could be more inspiring. And I know that we're working on some issues that plague this section here. But my point is like that the same is true, I think, of this site that was intentionally not very well done at first, but now needs to change and be a lot better done. And there's a lot of changes forthcoming for the landscape and for other areas.
I mean, if you have a look at, say, the Envoy website, that is something that what I think about is something we can have, because in terms of the overall design, it's not, because even if you look at, say, Envoy, it's very simple, right? But then it looks it has design scheme that is in accordance to the modern design schemes.
Right.
Layer 5 sort of feels a little outdated in terms of that.
Totally. Yeah, both. I think that Meshery IO site is intentionally, only a couple of pages or so to help people focus on the project and not as much on the site. The Layer 5 site is intended to have hundreds of thousands of pages at some point. But Shivai, I agree that there are any number of elements and aspects of the site today that are in need of dramatic change. And so, as a matter of fact, I think we've been discussing maybe taking this one off of Jekyll, moving it to Gatsby potentially. So we were kind of meandering. I guess the point is Nikhil, I think, was trying to make an attempt at changing up the colors. And I don't know that he's quite hit that mark. And so if people have other suggestions on, but I think one of the challenges that we're facing right now, and this is outside of the elements themselves and some of the design, is just the color scheme. So we're kind of locked into in these sort of two shades of green and this darker gray / dark blue gray or something. But that I consider that we're in need of a fourth, or it depends on how you want to think of it, a fourth or like a third color, something that's kind of the call to action color, that's complementary. Right now it's this blue. It doesn't need to stay that blue. I think the thought here was that it might be yellow, but this isn't working out. So anyway, part of the thing to think about is colors. Beyond that, yeah, Shivai, I am entirely open to the site completely changing. Not that I'm saying that it needs to. There are definitely aspects that can just be uplifted and modernized, with the same framework in place. But yeah, this is one of the projects that one of the marketing interns that you might be mentoring, Shivai, might be focused on. So speaking of, that's another work thread for us to bring in those interns. Okay, good. Anyway, just FYI, if anyone has met Sergio Mendez, who's in our Slack, you may or may not have. He teaches at a university in Guatemala. We've talked about various partnerships and doing various things. I think the thing that seems to be sticking is that he'll have a class coming up this month that he would like to bring about 5 or so of his students to participate in the community here. And as part of that, potentially partner with the university that he's teaching at. Okay, moving on, next topic, the container network performance tool, or really rather, there's a topic around a visual topology, right? And this is something that Sudeep has, and many others, frankly, have pointed out that would be really enlightening, very helpful to be able to see how the infrastructure is configured, how it is that, what changes that you're about to make, how they're going to affect the behavior of the mesh. One of the just ad hoc conversations that I was having last night was, well, the notion that there's lots of things that you can drive through a visual topology. That I had one of my teams previously work on. This is 3-4 years ago, on a small tool to help people understand the difference between different container network drivers, because you have choice there. There's different types in terms of being host-based or NATed or an overlay network, or different types of networks themselves, different types of network drivers that also have implementations of that networking. Some are more convenient, some have more overhead, and that we had created this tool that does a few different things. One of them is.
I just wanted to ask one thing, Lee, that does this tool also work for service meshes? Because I was going through the documentation and it said that it's mainly for the network containers, right? So if we're talking about multiple containers at a time, so will it work with that, or is it just limited to single container based workflows?
The former, it's just contain. Yeah, it's just well, actually, yeah, it's fine. This tool, so the reason that we're talking about this tool is for inspiration and just for an example of what could be to come within Meshery in context of in a first-class service mesh way. That this tool just does container to container network performance testing. it was aspirational that actually, and what's funny is in a lot of respects, this is kind of where we are with Meshery right now, that it's aspirational that this tool would have at some point let you do one to many or choose configure a relatively complicated performance test. Where we left it was just from one container to the next. And so there was there was a canvas interface and a form-based interface. This form-based interface is, in some respects, not that dissimilar from, this is so funny because I haven't looked at this since starting Meshery, but this interface would let you choose a node, a host, choose a container on that host, and it might have multiple endpoints in there, multiple IP addresses, and then generate load and test it against a different container. And then it would mostly, this was about throughput is what it was telling you, and let you run the test. Or you could use this visual interface. In this case, I think the example workload here was mostly a Redis instance and a bunch of Redis clients. And it visually showing you where, active traffic that's going on. So it would let you as a user select a given container and use this pop-up instead to basically do the same performance test, to invoke the same performance test you would have in that form-based interface. And so that's what this is about, is the notion that as we look toward a visual topology, the notion that you're having to do a performance test, like at some point in the performance tests in Meshery, we will have it such that you can go in and configure tests and save those performance test profiles, save those configurations, give them a name, and then schedule the running of those tests, because it might be something that you want to run either ad hoc or on a schedule, and maybe you've got different parameters that you want to configure. If anyone has run Meshery lately, you will have noticed that there are a bunch of new options inside the performance area. Kanishkar has been making some waves there. I have no idea what's going on with my network bandwidth. But my point is like the configuration of the performance tests at some point is going to get relatively sophisticated. And rather than having to go through as a user and configure all these, what types of headers you want to send over, if you had a special cookie you wanted to send, like maybe you want to test, it's not just about performance testing, it becomes about testing the configuration of your mesh. Like, hey, I've got this cookie, my workloads do this thing. I want to see if the configuration of the mesh that I have right now does what I intend for it to do, or if the developer makes a change and the cookie changes, or the JWT structure changes, or any number of use cases. Let me test that and see what's going to happen. Let me run a mock, do a dry run of a configuration change that we're planning, and see and be inspired that it'll do, the mesh will do what I'm intending for it to do. These are, but there's a long list of use cases for the visual interface, and to be frank, like rather just to hopefully enlighten and expand what we are all kind of thinking here, is that of all of the functions that you see in Meshery today, all of them could be driven through visual topology. Like the entire UI could just be the visual topology. So if you want to deploy a mesh, you can use the visual topology to do it. The visual topology could be a designer. So Kiali is a read-only interface. We're not going to go off and do a Kiali me too. I'm going to go off and do, because that wouldn't be helpful to folks necessarily. They should go use Kiali. That would be the right thing to do, or that would be a good thing to do, or something that I would suggest that they do. Rather, we would go expend energy to bring forth a bunch of use cases that that project hasn't yet. And I've mentioned a couple. There's a long list of them. one of those is about giving someone a blank canvas and letting them design their mesh from the activities and the constructs on on the side of the screen, dropping them in, and then have basically they can visually design and configure your mesh, your workloads. I've done products like that before at large technology organizations. These are tried and true. As a matter of fact, I wasn't even trying to mimic what we'd done here. It's just kind of comes natural. So as we go to end this, I guess I was just going to say that there's a few new knobs, a few new configurations to make when you're sending your tests over. Soon, hopefully have another load generator here. Beyond that, we'll have a distributed load generation test that you can create. Really like multiple URLs, multiple endpoints you might want to hit, multiple load generators you want to run. This is clearly going to be the deepest area of functionality for Meshery for a little while. That's not the long-term intention. That there are some other aspects of the project that are nascent today that will go quite deep as well. But we've got a good foothold here, a fair bit of interest, and that's in part why we're spinning up the Service Mesh Performance Working Group in the CNCF. Comments? Shivai, you mentioned this topic. Was that what you were looking for?
Yeah. I guess that clears. Thank you.
So Shivai, I have to say, like, I almost hesitated to describe it to you because until you deliver on some of your other PRs, we shouldn't talk about these. Shubham, this is you've got a hot. It's sad when I have the issue number memorized and know exactly what this one is. But yeah, you've hit on a good one.
Yeah, exactly, because it's been stuck with me for a long time. And 612. So the issue was to remove the endpoint. I forgot what endpoint was, and just to just a second. Yes, the issue was to remove slash graph or the endpoint, and there will be only IP with some ports only. And you said commented that the issue seems to be remain with Prometheus endpoint. When I enter this, I will share my screen, like, if you want.
Sure.
Is my screen visual?
It's coming.
Okay.
There we go.
Can you see this issue? Like,
I can.
okay. So you are saying that when you entered this, uh, you got some error. So it will give error because the issue was to remove slash graph here that you entered. So yeah, it will give because it is not getting any content in this link. So you have to enter only some IP with port number till that only. If you enter slash graph, it will show error. And I think we need to update the docs. Last time when I was following the docs, there was slash graph mentioned. So I think, yeah.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. We should definitely update the docs to not include the slash graph.
I haven't seen the latest doc, but the last time when I followed the docs, there was slash graph mentioned. So yeah.
The ideal behavior of that text field, though, is that it really doesn't matter how long of a URL that the user puts in. The form validation should be to cut off, to truncate anything after the port number. So we shouldn't be specifically looking for /graph or / anything
Yeah,
else.
exactly. Like I think initially when I did my first PR of that issue, I was just removing /graph. Then after that, I think. Uh,
Yeah, it would be good to confirm. I thought the behavior was still there.
okay, I will confirm that, but I think we need to update the docs also then.
Totally. Shubham, is that something that do you want to take care of the docs as part of this issue as well?
Yeah, I will open the issue and assign to myself. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, very good. And then Shubham, did you have a
And yeah, so I don't know what problem is with this issue. I tried so many things, but it's not working. So I think I need some idea or help from other folks on
Yeah,
this.
yeah. This is a good. Actually, I might suggest that we bring this one up in the Monday meetings, which are for the focus on continuous integration, which is where people are really focused on workflows and GitHub Actions. There might be some other interested folks there. In the meantime, and I say that in part because I don't know that I've got a suggestion right now. I also futzed around with it for a while and didn't get anywhere. And I'm pretty sure that's based on my ignorance. What I would suggest is to take the URL, drop it into the Meshery CI channel, and ask for some feedback. Suggest that I would go into the meeting minutes for this coming Monday and add it as a topic of discussion. And I would go so far as
Okay,
to
that will be. Yeah. I will stop presenting screen.
Okay. And then I would go so far as to tag people as well. Lidor in specific. I think I think he would be helpful. All right. So Shubham, I'll just recap really quick. Like the things you should do: drop the link into the Meshery CI channel. Go to
Yeah,
the
I will. Okay.
Go to the Meshery CI
Thank you.
minutes, drop it in there, and then ping Lidor as well. And I only
Sorry, who can you like ping who like can you write in the chat or
Yeah, you bet. You bet. All right, what's next?
yeah, thanks Lee.
Yeah, thank you, Shubham. Who's next? Nitish, you might be up.
Oh, sorry, I closed the page. This was something we discussed in the last meeting around how we want to basically separate Docker Compose files from actual configurations. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to. There wasn't any discussion on this ticket. Just wanted to see how we want to proceed with this. Uh, we need some. So this one doesn't highlight everything, but we wanted to generate the defaults in the Meshery CTL YAML file, the things that we have hard coded today, um, the local host address that we use for perf. So, so one question was, today you create the Meshery YAML by pulling from master every time someone does an init or reset. Um, are we taking a similar approach with Meshery CTL YAML? And my my qualm with that is that it kind of makes things unstable if someone pushes the wrong config to master. Probably need some versioning somewhere.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the part. We break Docker Compose out into an actual Docker Compose file. And then we have a Meshery YAML that has a client and server component, and we get rid of Meshery CTL YAML. That's the final goal, and I just wanted to hear everyone's thoughts on that.
Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Or questions? If this doesn't make sense, then feel free to ask questions too, and we can discuss the details.
So I have some thoughts.
Yeah.
And so this is a positive move. That a couple of things that Nitish are highlighting, as well as fragility in some areas of the project, and then and that comes in a couple of different forms. I think there'll be like two or three ways that by the time that issue is completed, the project will be it'll just be an improvement. Right now, one of the things that Nitish that you mentioned is that it actually isn't just an issue with respect to Meshery.yaml or the Docker Compose file, but Meshery server itself, like sort of all of the contents of things that are within this repo other than Meshery CTL. And this is why for the last coming up on a couple of months now, it's been kind of the highest priority in the Meshery CI working group to version Meshery server itself, because that same versioning applies to the Docker Compose. Basically, anything that gets pushed to master is the latest release of Meshery. That's true for everything save for Meshery CTL, which is only published as and when an actual release is made. It might be, so right now, I think part of the process by which the build scripts that we have will take a file that's named docker-compose, make a copy of that and name the file meshery.yaml, but it is just a Docker Compose file, and that's fine. A renaming is fine, obviously, but part of, I think, so Nitish has you've brought some additional functionality to for us to have configuration over not just Meshery server, but Meshery CTL itself. And today we have a reset function that will let people, if they've made changes locally to their Docker Compose YAML, they can use the reset flag to just have Meshery grab the latest copy from master. And so there is versioning control that's needed kind of over that behavior when someone runs a reset that we're not able to implement yet because that's not true. That we are able to implement that now in the same fashion that we would have that implemented when Meshery server really is more version controlled. And that is to say that the reset flag or the reset command in Meshery CTL would interface with the GitHub API for anyway, to basically match the user. The user would enter in the release tag or the version number that they want to retrieve. And basically the default behavior would be that the user probably wouldn't enter in the version number. Meshery CTL would probably say something like, what's my version number? Or rather, what's the version number of the server that you're running? I'll go ahead and assume that if you just say -- reset, you mean grab a fresh copy of the compose file from GitHub at that version number. It might, as we go through this, I think I think our chat or verbal discussions, I don't remember, were probably, I think they were under the notion of leaving the Docker Compose YAML file named meshery.yaml, creating a new one named meshery.ctl.yaml, And as I say that, we'd also noted that, okay, but like maybe combining those two into a single file might be a bit more intuitive for users and might be a bit more convenient, and that not having and as we go to do that, there was some indirection potentially needed. I'm trying to remember, did we land at a point where we were saying the main config file would ideally be named meshery.yaml, and that what's contained in meshery.yaml today, the Docker Compose stuff, would move to a new file? I don't remember.
Yeah, that's what the discussion was. We would, the meshery.yaml, or if you want to call it config.yaml, would have a server and client component, server being the Meshery server, client being the Meshery CTL. There could be some global params as well that apply to both server and to the CTL. And I think there was a discussion around there could be a choice between moving from Docker Compose to Kubernetes, and you would have this generic config file to set up those things as well in terms of context.
Yeah, context. Yeah, that's the part that makes it a little more, even more complicated than, yeah.
That's why I use the term re-architecture.
Yeah. This all makes sense to me. And actually your suggestion that that perhaps the combined client and server file name might be config.yaml, that also resonates for me. Yeah, it was easy enough to reason over in my mind when we didn't include the need for multiple Kubernetes for contexts. And that it might be possible that we can take an iterative approach, an iterative approach to getting there, because there are enough concerns to mull over for bringing forth the Meshery CTL.yaml, for bringing forth the first set of what we were talking about. This is definitely where we want. I'll commit to going back to our chats and re-articulating them here in such a way that it's in one place, so we can make all of those considerations at the same time, or in context of one another.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be iterative, but the bigger project could maybe live in Meshery temp and play around with this whole restructuring of our code base and config files.
Yeah. No, yeah, yep. And so for those that were, I don't even know if I'm running the latest Docker yet, but Docker context, I guess I probably am. It might, and kubectl context. And I guess we've got some examples of how, assuming that we were to eventually have a subcommand called context, that some examples here. Let's end early. Nitish, there's a bunch of other things that I'd like to put on paper and have a healthy discussion with you and a couple of others about the controllers that we've kind of chatted about. I'm excited, or there's some real need there.
You mean the operators?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Well, fair enough. All right. A couple of us are going to catch up here in about 5 minutes or so. So good time for a restroom break and a coffee refill. So you may all be excused to the restroom now. Anyone have anything else today?
Yeah, Lee, so this development meeting, the Google Doc that you are using, where is the link for that?
Yeah.
Is it in GitHub or?
It is in a couple places. That's a fantastic question. It's in a couple places. I'll try to give you maybe the best reference, because one of the places is sort of an index for all those things.
Mhm.
That's a reminder though, Ashish or Gunjan, Sudeep continually spews out or identifies all the areas where we've missed some of the finer points here. On Meshery.io, on that site, under the /community page, there's a nice prominent link that says join the community, and it will take you to the Slack. And we have a little bit of information about the community call on Friday. But will you ping Vineet Sharma and discuss?
I think I was talking about this call that we joined the Wednesday
Yeah.
and the Google document for the notes. What I see is for the Friday and the Google Doc corresponding to that Friday notes, but I couldn't find the one which we are using today and the corresponding doc. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, I was digressing. Try to say, hey, Gunjan and Ashish, can you guys improve what's on Meshery.io, the community page? And then Sudeep, to answer your question, I was trying to kind of improve so that you don't have to answer that type of question again. But so Sudeep, a couple of ways where to find these meeting minutes is in the Meshery community drive, the Google Drive. I believe it's under, well, it's not under community because there's the community meeting. It's under working groups, and maybe that should change. But this is the meeting minutes that we have for today. The other place to find it is in the invite to the meeting itself. We'll have a link to it.
I mean, I don't have access to this Meshery
Really?
Google Drive, really.
What is going on? That is, I can't believe. Who fell down on their job on this? That's what I want to know. And Sudeep, you absolutely should have. That should have been like one of the first things you got access to.
I was actually trying to find the link in the invite,
really?
but then I didn't see that link to the document in invite. So I was thinking maybe I will add some notes or comments and.
Yeah, absolutely. There's okay. All right. I think I'm going to get proven wrong in any number of ways this morning. The other place is in the Slack. Not that you'd want to rely on this, but just about an hour before each time that we have a call, whether it's this call or the other ones, there's a small little reminder of like, hey, join the call, and in there it has a link to the. But I'll take a note to update the calendar item, as well as get you access to the community team drive right away. Thanks for calling that out, Sudeep. That's a great. Gunjan and Ashish, did you guys get what I was saying about the Meshery.io page?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, very good. Well, thanks all. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye,
All
sir.
right. Bye, guys.